Eve lore has a depth that most aren't even aware of. In this universe, there are 4 races, or factions. These are the choices you are given when you bring a Capsuleer to life. The Gallente, the Caldari, the Minmatar, and the Amarr. Within each faction, there exist 3 separate bloodlines that you can choose from. Each one has its own merit within both history and basic characteristics given by lore. These 3 categories are then each separated by gender. We start with Amarr because, in alignment with Eve lore, the Amarr are recorded as the first to rediscover interstellar travel after the catastrophic closure of the Eve Gate. Meaning, in a nutshell, Amarr discovered the race to space first. After achieving this great task, they began to expand throughout space. The space you occupy in any system in the universe has a history of some kind. Some created by the architects, and the rest created by all of you. It is rumored on the internet that the stargates from the time of Eve Gate still lingered, floating in space when the Amarr found them, and soon began to build their own. With the power to expand throughout the universe, Amarr quickly enslaved all human life they encountered. The true Amarr are today most known for slavery of the Minmatar. There is an extensive timeline if you ever bother to read it. However, a brief synopsis is basically at some early stage in this surge of Amarr, a race called Jove, who Amarr tried to subjugate, dealt a series of crushing blows. Shortly after, the Minmatar rebellion took place. After 2 centuries, the Amarr have slowed down their expansion. Order has been brought to Eve, but the Amarr are still believed to have slaves. These basic components are infused within what is known as faction warfare. Each faction warfare excursion contains a storyline that is tied somehow with the very long struggle between the factions. If you do that sort of thing, you may already know some of this stuff. In researching Amarr, I found that I very much enjoyed a book by Tony Gonzalez called Eve, Templar 1. A book that, in my opinion, was a great read and didn't require having read the first book, called Empyrean Age, which in itself is a good book, but the Amarr storyline in Templar 1 is significant enough to draw anybody who likes a complex space saga. By far the most entertaining book I've found for Eve that combines some of the history for all the races. Today I take you to the City of God, which is a little-known place in Amarr that was intended by the then Emperor of Amarr to be the largest and most impressive city in space. The Emperor, Zaragrum II, has been labeled a megalomaniac by subsequent emperors due to the pressures from clergy. Zaragrum II was assassinated by his own grandson just before the completion of the City of God. This city was intended to bring the Emperor closer to his supernatural self. One can only imagine the kind of insanity associated with visions of grandeur. This holy place exists since its completion completely empty. It seems to me as though it might have made an excellent trade hub. The Blood Raiders are probably the most well-known of all exiled bloodlines in Amarr. The Covenant of Blood Raiders place great value on blood itself. Why, we're not exactly sure, but much like rogue Capsuleers Harvesteers, they are known to go to great lengths and collect blood from young pilots. These Blood Raiders come in many shapes and sizes. Blood Reach is a good example of the kind of architecture you might find when searching out sites for these devout, vampire-like religious groups descended from Amarr. This holy site sits upon the wreck of an Amarrian ship called the Pajira Manton. The exploration ship was discovered by the Blood Raider devoutes and transformed into this shrine. The shrine is surrounded by breathtaking views of both natural beauty and sickening dark reality. The blood arenas and slave containment areas make this seem more like a trap for wayfarers who pilgrimage to the unknown relics deep in OK-Tak FEM. Something in me stirs when I imagine those who might be unaware of the hardcore ritual in which blood raiders consume blood. They believe that drinking the blood of Capsuleers will bring them closer to salvation. As we leave Blood Reach, I am reminded that it is nice to be free from the pull of religion. On a lighter note, I wanted to bring you to a few more places in Amarr space that can be part of everyday explorations in EVE Universe. Our next stop, Chunka's Ship Wash, where we are told we can get a cheap wash and a quick latte at the vending habitat. I arrived at the location, which in fact has no indication of even existing in the system unless you know where to go. When you feel up to it, get to Planet 2, Moon 1 in Ashab and tell them Dr. Jon sent you. The music inside the pit can sometimes be awful. Some of the more prominent acts of our time have once played the dark stage of this hard-to-find space dive. You can always come here and get missions if you have the correct standing. After my latte and a shot of bourbon, I set out again to bring you enlightenment on another stop along my journey. The Mexios Graveyard, said to be the site of an immense battle between the Imperial Navy and the Elder Minmatar who invaded Amarr. It is unclear why the Minmatar invaded so close to the homeworld of the Amarrian leader Jamil Sorum, but what happened on that day is equally a mystery. It is said that she wielded a superweapon that turned the Minmatar invaders instantly to dust. You can see the wreckage, which still lingers, above the home planet of Jamil. As I float through the wreckage, I can imagine the violent battle, frozen within the beauty and glory that is Amarrian space. As I left the surreal gravesite, I shivered with a sigh of relief. On my way to our next destination, I ran across another well-known monument, erected in honor of the Alliance tournament winners, Pandemic Legion. I stopped to admire the monument in the Amamake system, and after a few minutes, I was quickly on my way again. Our next stop, the Golgothan Fields. Known as one of the more significant battles in both Minmatar and Amarrian history, in the system of Enur, the Golgothan Fields is a location where the Minmatar met the Amarr with everything they had. Head to head, the rebellion eventually retreated, but not before crippling the Empire's capital fleet, reducing their offensive strength. The retreat and the circumstances of this battle led to the overall success of the rebellion. It is said, not by me, that this resulted in the Minmatar achieving their victory in the war. When you come to visit this site, be sure, as you should with every landmark unknown, pay your respects. As we wind down to the last few sites I have time for today, I thought it was important to see the Meridian Strip. Much like most of Amarr space, the site for this resort was beautiful, breathtaking. Planted near the plasma clouds of Izara, the strip was intended to soothe guests, and for several years it was a success. That is, until the Blood Raiders located, and despite its proximity to high security space, decimated the resort. Hundreds of innocent people died as the raiders made regular sweeps throughout the area. After a few years of these attacks, the resort was shut down permanently. The only presence you will find these days are blood raiders who roam the ruins. Be careful if you venture out into this site, as you most likely will die getting there, and if not, you may die to blood raiders who inevitably drink your blood in celebration afterwards. This brings us to the final site I was able to locate. The Amarr Home Worlds Monument floats in orbit above Amarr Prime as a reminder to all of those who venture through this area that Athra, as it was originally called, was the first planet and the original home to the Khanid, the true Amarr, and the Eudorians. The Amarr system remains the center of the Empire, with this ancient Amarr Prime as the seat of the imperial throne. It is believed to be true holy ground and a genuine pilgrimage location to all who are born Amarr.